Good Friday morning. Welcome to Break the Board Sports. This is John coming off a big Thursday night for us. It was awesome. We had 2-0 in Major League Baseball. Got the Arizona Diamondbacks minus 120 to come home. Also got the Seattle Mariners minus 120 to come home. So 2-0 night in baseball puts us at 52.34 units up on the baseball season. Been an incredible baseball season. Then last night, had the Jets, but also did take a loss, kind of split down football because we had a money line parlay, Jets and App State, and App State just got an absolute butt kicking. I'm done with that team. I had the handicap wrong. A bunch of other people I follow had the handicap wrong. This App State team might have talent, but they're an absolute disaster as they got throttled last night by South Alabama, 48-14. We do have the triple unit money line parlay tonight. That's going to have the Jets, which we had cash in, and the Syracuse Orangemen. So still got that on tape for tonight. And then in Major League Baseball, just a little bit of a tip in baseball. Again, it applied with the D-backs and the Brewers, also applied with that Mariners. Of course, the Mariners are in a dogfight for a playoff spot, but every time you have a team in baseball clinch, whether it's a playoff spot or it's a division, bet against them the next day. Always bet against them. It's a trend that since I've been doing that trend a little over 13 years now, tends to hit at about an 83% clip. So again, team clinches just automatically, unless you get stuck with a bad pitcher like that Eric Getty guy in Houston or Patrick Corbin, who stinks here in Washington. You might not want to do that. But for the most part, just going ahead and fading the team that clinches, that always ends up being a good way to go. College football tonight, we got 3 games on the slate. Syracuse laying 8.5 against Stanford. 75% of the bets and 76% of the handles on Syracuse. 25% on Stanford for the ticket count. 24% on the comeback for them. Nebraska laying 8 against Illinois at home. I'm going to be really interested here. I know a lot of people are like, oh, well, look what Nebraska did against Colorado. I like Coach Prime. I like Shador. I like Travis Hunter, but I don't think Colorado is any good. This Illinois team will be the first time that Nebraska's really had to match up in the trenches. Illinois' big offensive line, big defensive line. Brett Bielema does a great job with that. So I'm looking for a real smash mouth game here with the over-under only set at 43. With the way Nebraska can score, it's telling you it's going to be an under game. I think there's a couple 8.5 still out there. I think 8.5 plus 8.5 with the Fighting Illini is the way to lean on that one. Not an official play, again, just a lean opinion. In San Jose State at Washington State laying 12.5. They're getting 73% of the bets, 56% of the money. All 3 of those games are broken down there on breaktheboardsports.com. We have all handicapping tools. We have notes on each game. So we give you where the money's at on the bets and on the handle, ticket count and the handle. And then we also give you quick hitter notes. So those quick hitter notes, you're going to get anywhere from 5 to 10 notes, depending on the game, to help you become a better handicapper. Yes, we give out plays. Yes, we're going to make you money if you just blindly follow us. But what we really want to do is we want to help people become better handicappers, right? The space is so big. There's so many things going on in the market of sports gambling and all that. Everybody's doing it. Most, over 80% of bets are a $10 or less bet. So there's a lot of people betting, but not a lot of big amounts. I want to see people win. So that's what we want to do. Got some great packages up there for you. Again, breaktheboardsports.com. If you could click subscribe every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 9:30 Eastern time. We'll kick off this show, and we got clips and all on TikTok. You can follow us on X for trends and all that. Just run down through a couple college games here. Kansas at West Virginia. West Virginia laying 2.5. They're getting 65% of the bet, 67% of the handle. Big one, NC State and Clemson. NC State and Clemson, this line's been bouncing all around. It was a 16.5. Then there's a 21.5. Then there's a 20. Then there's an 18. been all over the place. Right now, it's settled in at 19 with 51% of the tickets going NC State's way, 49% going to the way of Clemson. Now, the big thing here is Grayson McCall, quarterback of NC State. I don't think he's going to play. If he doesn't play, I can't take the dog here, right? I think Clemson's on a mission. It's funny, everybody was really down on Clemson, and even I was really down on Notre Dame. I'm still down on Notre Dame. I'm a big Notre Dame fan, but I'm still down on them. But I think both of those programs understand now to have any shot at the college football playoff, they got to go scorched earth and just start running it up on people, right? So I think you're going to see that from both programs. Whenever they have the opportunity, they're going to run that thing up. NC State, they've been a disappointment so far. Not what I thought they would be. So that one will be interesting. Game I like. I'm going to put out a little short on this later in the day. Tulane and UL Lafayette. Listen, with Louisiana Lafayette getting 3 at home, right now 85% of the ticket count on Tulane, 15% on Louisiana Lafayette, 69% of the handle on Tulane compared to 31% for Louisiana Lafayette. Look, Tulane, this is a really bad spot for them, right? They had big game, this is Tulane's second game on the road in a row. But what they just went through, they had K-State. They lost a heartbreaker at home. Then they had a tough one in Norman. I mean, they've just really, really had to battle. Now, last time these two teams played, 2018, that was a 41-24 win for Tulane. Before that, 2016, Tulane won by 2 in overtime. And then before that, Louisiana Lafayette took the other 2 matchups. When I look at this, I just like, it's an interstate rivalry. Louisiana Lafayette's got a solid football program. Tulane, this is just a real soft spot for them as far as coming off those big games against K-State and Oklahoma. I mean, you had to get up so high. Now you're coming down to play Louisiana Lafayette. It's on the road. I just think this is a bad spot for them. So I'm going to go ahead and grab UL Lafayette +3. That's going to be a play this week for me. I'll actually probably lay $1.25 and buy the half point and get Louisiana Lafayette +3.5. They're not really a sponsor, but this is brought to you by Starbucks Pumpkin Cream Cold Brew. Best thing there is this time of year. Florida at Mississippi State. I mean, again, if you're watching this game, you got a really pathetic life. Florida laying 6 on the road. 62% of the bets going Florida's way, 72% of the handle. Here's my only problem with this game. I was looking at this so what I do is you should adjust your power rankings every week, and they really shouldn't adjust a whole lot, right? You do your work in the summer. Something good for you guys and gals out there is, okay, during the summer, you're on vacation. You get your books, you do your studying, you do your breakdown, you listen to a bunch of podcasts, you form your own power rankings, right? So then you can start learning to form your own lines, right? Stuff that really helps your own handicapping. So, but when you do that, right? When you do that, you also have to have common sense. And I know neither one of these teams are any good, right? But folks, I got to ask you, I don't care who they're playing. How can Florida be laying 6 on the road to anybody? I mean, Billy Napier's still the head coach, right? How can they be laying 6 against anybody? So I said, all right, John, maybe you're just being a little too over dramatic. So I said, all right, they last played in 2018 at Mississippi State. Florida won by 7. Before that was 2010 in Florida. Mississippi State won 10-7. So I'm like, all right, SEC, blah, 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 blah. Now, one good thing here is Florida has hit the game total over in 9 of their last 12 games. So the over-under's at 58.5. Florida, 9 of their last 12 games, they've hit the over. If you just blindly bet that every time, you'd be up 5.7 units, give you a 43% ROI. Now, they've covered the first half spread in their last 3 games on the road. So Florida's last 3 games on the road, they've been able to cover that first half spread. That would have put you up 3 units, obviously, for a 91% ROI. But look, I just don't see The Gators had that 41-17 loss to Miami right off the bat. Jeff Lebby of Mississippi State, this is his first year, so he's got a little bit of time after the unfortunate passing of Mike Leach. As to where Florida and Billy Napier, they're dead in the water again. I don't think this is a game you can bet, right? But just based off of name, people are going to take Florida. I would just question, and look, if you did your work, you did your handicapping, you're like, John, totally wrong. I like Florida for this, and this reason. Hey, great. Who am I to argue? I got to come back with, how can Florida be laying 6 on the road to anybody? Like, when you got a team here's the equivalent, is if you looked up on any NFL Sunday and the Carolina Panthers were laying 6 points on the road. I mean, they shouldn't be favored by 6 at home, 6 on the road, right? The New York Giants are favored by 6 on the road. See, like when I say it, it makes no sense. Same thing applies to Florida here, but hey, you can garner that and go out on that as you would like. Ohio State, the Buckeyes, they're not going to get much of a test here. They got Marshall. Ohio State's laying 40. I would think Marshall would cover this, but Ohio State, they had a little bit of a rest here. Ohio State's got some big games coming up. I don't know how motivated they'll be, but again, I never really liked stepping in front of the Ohio States or the Alabamas. Like, it's just never, ever worked out for me. Stepped in front of Texas earlier this year with Michigan. That didn't work out for me. So just not something that, I personally want to run out there and do. Another game, USC at Michigan, right? USC laying 5.5. This is a big one. And I got to tell you, when I look at this and go through it, I'm just curious with the new quarterback, how Michigan's going to look. I think they're going to be better. Listen, I know Michigan's defense is good, but I know everybody was really high on USC, me included. After that LSU game, I'm like, man, Miller Moss looks really good. That defense looks way different under the new regime. Like, USC could be a problem. But here's the thing. Vegas is very smart. Everybody saw Texas go in there and destroy Michigan. And Michigan's in a really buy low spot, right? And I don't think Michigan is some powerhouse by no means, so don't get me wrong. But again, just like we talked about with Florida, do you really see USC laying 6 on the road, 5.5, 6 at Michigan in the big house, right? Because one thing's for sure, Michigan can still run the football and they still got that defense. So if they get any kind of quarterback play, and look, I watched that Texas game. I was actually fortunate enough to watch it from Stadium Swim there at Circa. They do a great job. And as I'm watching, I'm like, man, there's plays to be made. The Michigan quarterback just stinks, right? Like, he just stinks. So I'm not discounting USC, but as we've seen things play out now, are we really high and mighty on LSU? Like, how good was that win for USC? Because I see LSU on the struggle bus still. They were life and death and had to come from behind and beat a South Carolina team that's not really good, right? So I just wonder, I'm not saying USC isn't good, and I'm not saying Michigan isn't down. Both of those things I believe are true. However, from a betting aspect, I think you got to take the points here. And then the other thing is, again, I like being contrarian. I love being on the side of the books. I heard Thomas Gable this morning talking about on VSiN. Look, 81% of the ticket count on USC and 91% of the money, compared to 19% of the tickets on Michigan and 9% of the money. Give me Michigan plus the 6. There's actually a couple books doing it. I saw FanDuel's doing it. I don't know who else is. I think Barstool had something like that. So shop around. But a lot of places are doing this 50% or 25% profit boost. Look, you can actually take Michigan by 1.5 to 2 points to plus 7.5, and Michigan ends up being even money for that. I think that's great value, but I'm definitely going to be on the side of the Wolverines. Look, I said I wouldn't do it anymore after I loved Texas and went away from the public and took Michigan, and I paid dearly for it. I'm going to go back to the well one more time and see. But Michigan plus 5.5 is going to be the play. We'll have some write-ups again. Those write-ups will be up this afternoon. BreakTheBoardSports.com. Then tomorrow we'll have all your NFL stuff, breaking down the quick hitters of each game. Again, BreakTheBoardSports.com. You can get everything this weekend for $9.99. Now, USC has hit the game total over 8 of their last 12 games. If you've been betting that blindly, you're up 3.6 units, giving you 27% return on your investment. Another game here that I want to see, it's finally hit 11. I'm going to take them. I love the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets. We're going to have a write-up on this again at BreakTheBoardSports.com. Georgia Tech, 56% of the ticket count, 57% of the handle, compared to Louisville, 44% of the ticket count and 43% of the handle, going to the way of the Louisville Cardinals. Look, everybody's really big on Louisville. I haven't been big on them all year. I'm not a fan. I do like what Georgia Tech has. I've been really on them. They're 7-3 their last 10 straight up. ATS 8-2. So I love what they've been doing. Louisville, they're more of a modest 6-4 straight up, 5-5 ATS. When you look at this, last time they played, 2023, last year at Georgia Tech, Louisville snuck out a 5-point win. So again, this Georgia Tech team's way better than last year. Louisville, maybe they're a little bit better. Again, I'm not big on Louisville this year, but Georgia Tech won the previous two meetings, 2020 and 2018, blew them out both times. But just that meeting last year, 39-34, Louisville at Georgia Tech. Now Louisville comes home and they're laying 11. You know, there's even an 11.5 now that's popped up. If you get 11.5, I mean, if you're just thinking about that numbers-wise, right? 34-23, 38-27, 31-20, you're good either way. I think the Yellow Jackets are the play. I know a lot of people discounted them because of their performance against Florida State. Okay, Florida State, it's not good, so that really wasn't a good win. Then they go to Syracuse and struggle. But listen, we had them against Syracuse, right? And the curse of the Carrier Dome bit me. But I think Georgia Tech is the right side here. I love what they can do running the football. Georgia Tech, they've hit the money line 4 of their last 6 games on the road. If you've taken them on the money line on all their road games, 4 out of the last 6, they've hit that. If you had followed that, you're up 9.25 units, 142% ROI. And actually, I would sprinkle a little bit here for them to get the outright win. I think Georgia Tech, Louisville's got to look ahead next week. Louisville's got to go to South Bend in Notre Dame. To be quite honest, that's both of their seasons, right? Because even if Louisville drops this one, them and Notre Dame can't afford to lose another one. Notre Dame's got to run the table. If they run the table, no matter how weak their schedule is, they will get in the college football playoff. But that matchup next week, Louisville to Notre Dame, that's where the focus is on. I think Georgia Tech's a really good football team. I still think they're going to be playing in the ACC title game. I'm a big believer in Georgia Tech. So we're going to grab them plus 11, and we're going to sprinkle a little money line on them here to get the win for us. And Georgia Tech will be a play. So Georgia Tech, we like. Louisiana Lafayette, we like. We'll have some more write-ups. One more college game I want to touch on before we go to the NFL. This Utah, Oklahoma State. Listen, it's a 3-team race in the Big 12. Utah, K-State, Oklahoma State. I know it sounds real chalky. That's what everybody had before the year. That's what I had. Nothing has happened in these first couple of weeks to make me change my mind. Colorado, don't want to hear them. Arizona, don't want to hear them. Arizona State, I know they're off to a nice 3-0 start. It's a nice story. Don't want to hear it. Kansas, no shot, right? West Virginia, don't even want to hear about them anymore. So these next 2 weeks for Oklahoma State, they have Utah coming in. Next week, Oklahoma State goes to K-State. I mean, they got them sandwiched, right? They got the toughest row of the 3. So Oklahoma State's got to grab one. This one in Stillwater, you would think would be the one. Cam Rising, he's going to play. But what I don't understand, Utah goes from a 2.5-point favorite to a 2.5-point dog. Every time I kind of follow that method or bet away from that, I've always gotten bit. So I'm going to stay with my original. And the original has been, even when they were a 2.5-point dog, is Oklahoma State. I love them on the money line, right? These are the two oldest quarterbacks in college football. Oklahoma State is really, really tough at home. They've won their last 8 at home. If you've bet them on the money line, their last 8 games at home, you're up 11.7 units. It's giving you a 48% return on your investment. And those 8 straight money line bets, you say, well, that's money line. I don't really want to lay the $1.35-ish. Totally fine. 6 of the last 8 at home, they've covered the spread. That would have put you up 3.8 units, 43% ROI. Oklahoma State has hit the over. Your over-under set at 52.5. I do think it's going to be a little hard to get there. I think you're going to see a real defensive slugfest in this, even though you do have the two oldest quarterbacks in college football. So, again, just something to look at there. In the first half spread, Oklahoma State's laying 1.5. There's a couple ones out there, but they've covered the first half spread in 5 of their last 8 games at home. I think Stillwater's going to be jacked up. We're going to ride the Cowboys on the money line. Again, we'll have more in-depth notes on this on the site, breaktheboardsports.com, if you subscribe. Along with, we'll have breakdowns. Tennessee, Oklahoma will be on there. Another one, Rutgers, Virginia Tech. I'm really, really high on that game as well. And then we'll have a write-up. K-State and BYU will be on there. TCU, SMU. So a lot of good stuff going on there. Pivoting over to the NFL here as I refresh. Again, if you could click that subscribe for us. NFL's been, we're just a shade over 500. College has been really rough for us as a team. NFL's been a little bit better, but this is the week to turn it around. One of my favorite plays of the week is the Pittsburgh Steelers -1.5. Again, like I always say, anything 3 or under with the favorite, I'm going to take the money line. So we're going to lay $1.20 with the Pittsburgh Steelers. It's going to be a triple unit play. I think with the Steelers, my biggest thing is I just think they're a better team, right? Defensively, I know Justin Herbert is on the other side, and I think that's great. And I think Justin Herbert is a really good quarterback. But I also think the Chargers have really they feasted on bad teams, right? Raiders, Panthers. Mike Tomlinson's been without Ben Roethlisberger. He's 42-27-3 ATS. And they've hit 77% of a 6-point teaser. And listen, here's the other thing. In one-score games, Pittsburgh 33-11 straight up. They're 31-13 ATS in those games in one-score games. So under Mike Tomlin, we know how he is. And I think the other thing is the Chargers, they struggle to score. I know Pittsburgh struggles to score, but Pittsburgh's at home. They have a much better defense that can get them by and create problems. And they're 5-1. Pittsburgh 5-1 against the spread their last 6. So Pittsburgh -120 here is the way I like to go. Now, the under, but the over-under, they're squeezing you here, right? There hasn't been a lot of points scored so far in the NFL season. But the Chargers have gone under their in 7 of their last 8 road games have gone under the total. So just a little nugget to keep there. Cleveland Browns laying 6.5 against the lowly New York Giants, who even the Giants are the only team I can think of that could score 3 touchdowns. The other team not score a touchdown, they still lose. The under has gone in 12 of New York's last 17 games. Giants are 6-3 against the spread their last 9 overall. So as horrible as the Giants are, they've been a covering machine. Now, the last 7 games at home, the Browns are 6-1 straight up, along with 6-1 ATS. Right now, again, the line set in 6.5. Browns, 69% of the ticket count, 61% of the handle. So they're getting love as to where the Giants, 31% of the ticket count, 39% of the handle here. I think the Browns are a nice option and a teaser. Obviously, love them in a money line parlay type situation. I think if you're looking for something like that and you're saying, okay, John, what's some teams I could get? I'm not trying to sound, squarish, right? We never want to be a square. However, it is what it is. When you look at this one, Browns, Bucks, Bengals, I think you start using those combinations, you're in good shape. I think if you take the Cardinals, and right now it's 3, if you tease them up in a 7-pointer to get to the 10, I think that's a good way to go. So there's definitely some options there. Same with Philly. That's holding at 3 now. Take them up to 10. I think there's great value you can get in that. But the Browns here, I got no play on this game. I do think, again, money line parlays, you got to throw the Browns in there. A teaser, you got to throw the Browns in there. I think the Ohio teaser, the Halloween Ohio teaser, Browns Bengals. I feel pretty good about that if you roll with that. Texans at the Vikings. Justin Jefferson says he's going to play. Texans have had to fight tooth and nail, but they are 2-0, which right now in that AFC South is like a commanding lead. They're 2-0. The other 3 teams 0-2. So if Houston was to win this, the other teams fall again this week, they would be off to a really, really good start. But this line opened 2.5. I thought it would get over 3, but it's actually went back the other way. -2, over under 46. 64% of the ticket count, 59% of the handle going the way of the Houston Texans. 36% of the ticket count, 41% of the money on the Minnesota Vikings. That over under 46, it's been all over. 85% of the handle on the over compared to 15, which is kind of stunning to me, honestly, because I look at D'Amico Ryans and I look at Brian Flores and I'm like, these defenses are just going to bottle each other up. Like this has, like where you just saw Texans Bears 19-13. Again, I think you're 20-17, 24-20 gets you there. I'm all over the under here. I like the under in this game 100%. I don't see it going over the 46, not with these two defenses. The fact people are betting the over, I'm a little surprised by that. I'm not an over-under guy. I know we have people here at the network that are. I'm not. But I do think Minnesota here, when you talk about the spread itself, I think you got to look at, what laying points on the road, I've always said this is a dangerous proposition, right? It's so hard to win, and it's even harder to win on the road. Doesn't matter what sport you're talking about. But in these matchups, Minnesota Vikings, the last 5 times they've played the Texans, they're 5-0 straight up and 5-0 ATS, right? I do think things are important when you use history. Trends are important. Now, Houston is 5-1 straight up in their last 6 games overall. But look, CJ Stroud, 19 starts in the NFL. He's 6-3 as an underdog, but CJ Stroud as a favorite, 3-7, right? So again, I think Minnesota, the fact that it hasn't hit that 3. It actually came back the other way despite the bets going by way of the Texans. I think the Vikings are a great teaser play this week. Again, I'm a big 7-point teaser guy when it makes sense, unless it lands in a no-man area. But I think Vikings Browns in a Vikings Browns 6-point teaser. You get the Browns down just to win. The Vikings are at 2, so you get them over 8.5. I like getting over 8 rather than over 7. I think 4 and 8 have really turned into. I know everybody's like, 3, 6, and 7 key numbers, and they are. I'm not ever going to argue that. I just think 4 and 8s have become a bigger player to me when I'm doing my breakdown. So again, I think a 6-point teaser -120 Vikings Browns is a great value bet there and something you guys should look at. New Orleans Saints at the Philadelphia Eagles. Saints, Eagles were a 1.5-point favorite, and then after last weekend, this thing has switched to Saints -3. Saints looking good for that future ticket I got on them in the NFC South before the season. 66% of the bets going to the Saints, 75% of the handle, 34% of bets going to the Philadelphia Eagles, and 25% of the handle. People really down. Listen, I think you buy the hook here. You lay $1.20, $1.25, take the Eagles +3.5, and that's the way you got to go. Again, I know everybody's really stuck on Sirianni, the call at the end of the game. Jalen Hurts is bound to throw a pick every game. The Saints look electric, and I do like the Saints. I'm not going to argue that. But 2 things. Dennis Allen, still the head coach, and we know his record. I've talked about it numerous times, right? And the other fact is as great as the Saints have looked, they played a horrible Carolina team. We've talked about that at nauseum. Everybody in the space has talked about it might be the worst talented team ever in history, which is pretty hard to do, right? And then we talk about the Dallas Cowboys. We know they're always going to fall on their face, right? Like, I don't, if you beat Dallas, I don't feel like that's a quality win. I'm sorry. I just don't. So when I look at that, how good are the Saints? I don't think, a tiger ever changes its stripes, and I don't think Dennis Allen is automatically turned into this great head coach. Now, I do think they have enormous pieces, right? I've been a Derek Carr guy. Is he a guy that's going to win you a Super Bowl? No, but Derek Carr is a top 15 quarterback, upper half. When Kamara and Olave and those guys are healthy, the Saints have weapons. They can do damage. But I don't think a team that I set out to be the best team in the NFC and be in the NFC Championship game, and that being the Philadelphia Eagles against the Lions. That was my preseason pick. I'm not all of a sudden going to and we can argue how Sirianni called it till the cows come home, blah, 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 blah. Saquon Barkley should catch the ball. He catches the ball, the game's over. So you look at it how you want and break it down, but that's sports. That's sports betting. That's sports handicapping. Small, minuscule things that decide whether a spread gets covered or not, right? And the way I look at this, Eagles 12-6 straight up their last 18 games on the road. So again, they've played really well on the road. The other thing I look at here, I want to pull it up. Hurts and Sirianni, they're 4-7 against the spread as a combo, as underdogs. And Hurts all-time 1-4 ATS as an underdog. In his last 5, and again, his last 10 starts as an underdog. Jalen Hurts 3-7. When Hurts is on the road or in a neutral site, 11-18-1 against the spread when he's either on the road or a neutral site game. So overall in his career, 28-28-2 against the spread. Listen, I think, and the Eagles have lost 4 straight true road games against the spread. The Saints here, again, I can't knock them. They're 22-31 against the spread at home. They've been a much better road team, 33-19 ATS. Listen, again, Dennis Allen, after a straight-up win, he is now 6-16-2 ATS. So there's some ugly against the spread trends, no matter which way you go with this. And when you're talking about a field goal game, I think it does come down to a field goal no matter who wins this game. So I'm going to buy the hook. I'm going to lay the $1.20, $1.25. And I'm going to take the Philadelphia Eagles plus 3.5 here. I took them as a Circa Millions play plus 3. Of course, in the Circa Millions, you can't hop off of it. But they were one of my plays. I think Philly bounces back here and at least gives the Saints a game. Even if the Saints end up going 3-0, I think this has 30-27. 27-24, 24-21. I think it has it written all over that. I think that's why the books went to 3 here. So I'll go ahead and I'll take the Phillies, or the Eagles rather, plus 3.5 in that play. Moving on down the line, Indianapolis Colts are hosting the Chicago Bears, pair of 2 0-2 teams. If I'm the Colts, I feel a whole lot better about my franchise with Richardson, though I'm not 100% sold. If I'm the Chicago Bears, I think you start looking for a trade partner now with Caleb Williams, because in 2 years, nobody's going to want him. He's going to be Zach Wilson all over again. And people, I'm probably going to get blown up about that, but I'm telling you, he doesn't have the mentality or the maturity or the brain to play quarterback in the NFL. And we have got to stop. We have got to stop saying the quarterback is such a phenomenal athlete. I know times have changed. It's even changed. It starts in Pee Wee, right? Let's put the best athlete at quarterback. That's great. But you still have to read defenses. You still have to make quick decisions. And we even saw at USC, athleticism only gets you so far. At some point in time, you got to be able to read defenses, make a hot read, drive a team down the field with no timeouts, make the throws when they have to be made, make throws in tight windows. And just because you have a flash of it and you're like, oh, that's potential. No, when you have God-given ability, you can make a throw. Look at Ryan Lee, folks. But we are crazy. And I said this, I've said this since the beginning. When people are making comparisons to Pat Mahomes, I'm like, woo, don't see it. Here's the other thing. He doesn't have the maturity, and he never will be mature enough to be an NFL quarterback. That's not why I don't like the Bears this week. I don't like the Bears this week because the head coach stinks too, right? I know the Colts defense is bad, but I think in that dome, they play a whole lot better. They played the Texans stuff, though that's a division matchup. I think right now, getting the Colts minus $1.25, the money's about split on the spread minus 1.5. But I think getting the Colts here minus $1.25 on the money line is the way to go. I think the Colts get off the schneid and they win their first game of the season. Again, Bears, they're averaging 2.97 yards per play right now. Their offense is just not good. And the Bears, they're a mess, man. They're a mess. I just don't like what I see. Even the defense, and I'm a big guy on this. This is my problem with Arizona with Jonathan Gannon. If you're a defensive head coach, right? And again, I'm not a big believer in defensive head coaches because it's an offensive league. However, if you're a defensive head coach, you better have a stout defense. Like if you're the Cardinals or you're the Bears, I mean, man, what am I really getting? What am I getting out of this, right? So I think you have to look at that. You know, this is one of my big things why I'm not a big Raheem Morris fan, right? No matter where he's been a head coach at, he can't get the defensive right as a head coach. If you're a defensive head coach, I really think this is what I think about most all head coaches. You're supposed to be an overseer, right? But if you're going to be a doer, do it and get it done right. That defense needs to be tighter. I think Richardson's going to be able to put up points. I don't think they're going to be able to control him. Look, I don't think by no means there's not going to be a blowout in this game either way. But I do think the Colts laying $1.25 here is great value. So we're going to clip that off. Big game of the week, Baltimore Ravens and the Dallas Cowboys on this one. Listen, Baltimore right now laying 1, 65% of bets, 69% of the handle going by way of the Ravens. Dallas Cowboys, 35% of the ticket count, 31% of the bets. Now, look, I know Dallas had won 16 straight at home. Now they dropped one. People are like, the streak will start again. In the words of Lee Corso, not so fast, my friend. I really like the Baltimore Ravens here to bounce back. I think they win this game. I think they actually control it. And again, controlling a game doesn't mean you blow people out. I think they're going to be able to run the football. I think they're going to get back to what they brought Derrick Henry in here for, to really ground and pound. I think you'll see Lamar really look to escape the pocket. Again, Lamar, phenomenal athlete, 2-time MVP, really elusive, really dynamic, can wreck a game, is not a Super Bowl quarterback. Again, guy can't read defenses and make the throws when it's time to. Like if you can't make the throw, if you get the ball and on a drive, you can't close out the Raiders. I don't care about your MVPs. I really don't care about your MVPs. MVPs are one great year, not a great career, right? Like, and let's be honest, we've all had that, right? Even in our own careers, we have that great year. I don't want to hear about him being an elite quarterback, elite athlete, a guy that on any given Sunday can absolutely wreck a defense and take over a game with his legs and make 3 or 4 throws. Absolutely. Consistency, none whatsoever. However, I think this Sunday, Lamar Jackson does what he has to do to get Baltimore to a win. They're 5-1 straight up their last 6 games on the road. And they're 6-1 straight up their last 7 playing the Dallas Cowboys. John Harbaugh, I just can't envision a situation where he starts 0-3. Now, look, I said the Ravens would miss the playoffs before the season, but I didn't think they would be 0-2, right? I mean, I thought we had a big bet on the Chiefs. We gave that out on the Chiefs money line to start the year. But if you had told me they were going to beat the Raiders, that was my final circuit survivor. I had the Ravens last week, so I'm out after 2 weeks. I'm going to track that just to see if win the whole way. Of course, we would have had the Jets this week. We had talked about that. But I just want to see how far it would go, because if I turn back and we're at Christmas, remember I said if you get to Christmas, there will be a chop. Said that since the beginning. There will be a chop. People don't want to mess around with Christmas and ruin their Christmas. If they do, they're a sick gambler. But listen, I think the Ravens, if I get to Christmas and I look back and say the Ravens cost me a shot at that because they couldn't close out the Raiders because Lamar couldn't put one to drive together, it's going to make me sick. But listen, I'm going to get it all back. Going to get my circa entry fee back, my survivor entry on the Ravens that I lost and the week one one. I'm going to lay it on Baltimore this week. I love the Ravens. Them and the Pittsburgh Steelers, both of those money line bets are my favorite two bets of the whole weekend in the NFL, along with a little Browns Bengals teaser. I did give out to you guys Browns Vikings in a 6-pointer, so you get the Browns pick, Vikings +8. Again, you'll have breakdowns on all the games. We love feedback, helping us be better, to help you become a better handicapper. Go to breaktheboardsports.com. Be following us. We'll have clips and videos out today. We'll have some more in-depth stuff on that Georgia Tech Louisville game. We'll have some Tennessee Oklahoma clip I think you're going to love. Be looking for that on X and on TikTok. Please click that subscribe down below. We'll be back on the show Monday morning, 9:30 Eastern time. Steelers, Ravens, both on the money line, and Georgia Tech +11.5. Let's book them.